Welcome back to the channel. We are back this week on the 1984 Mercedes Benz. Last time you saw us strip the car, take out all the wiring, the motor, interior, everything that was not necessary. And you saw us throw in the LS and the 6L80E so we can make sure that we have room in our engine bay and our transmission. Well, this week we're going to get to the more specific fabrication. So we're actually going to mount the motor in, make some motor mounts, make a transmission crossmember, and get all of that stuff in place so we can continue our build. We got our block on the engine stand. Now we have some parts to start dressing it up. So we got these exhaust manifolds. They need to go on. That will help us place the motor and make sure that we're not going to interfere. Have space to build our exhaust off the two sides. Got a gasket for that. We have an engine bracket kit, lots of holes, lots of adjustment, so we can loose fit those on the side of our block too. That way when we hang it back in, we could start to think about our design, how we're gonna connect the stock area to our new motor mounts. And lastly, we got our front sump oil pan, straight from Sikky. That will stock. The sump is at the bottom here where the pickup tube is, and that didn't fly with our spacing back here. So we're gonna have the sump up right in front of our cross member. So let's start taking some stuff off our block, and then we could start putting on all of our new stuff. Okay, we got our exhaust manifolds on, our oil pan for the front sump, and some billet motor mounts. That should be a good start to getting the motor back onto cherry picker and dropping it back in here. Then we could get an idea based on the body of the car, where the exhaust manifolds come out, the cross member in relation to the front sump of our oil pan, and then finally where the motor mounts are going to line up with our cross member, and what we have to build off of here to catch the subframe of the car. So let's lower down the car, get this back on the cherry picker, and then we could drop it in again. All right, we are back in with the motor, and there's a couple things in our way now that we have this new pan on. It's much wider than where the stock pan was, and that is hitting this little mounting tab that comes out here. We no longer need that. So that was for a motor mount shock, I guess, to smooth out the vibrations of the motor. So we could cut that tab off the cross member. Same thing, it's going around here. We're up against it, so we could zip that off. And then finally, since we're doing rack and pinion steering, we no longer need this idler arm support bracket right here, which gets in the way of this exhaust manifold exiting. So we could actually just cut that whole bracket off of our frame, and that will give us tons of clearance in that direction. So we're gonna go ahead, pull the motor back out, get the grinder out, cut off those three things, and then we could set it back in here. Also, our height is a bit tilted, so while it's out, we'll work on leveling out the motor some. That we could have a better mock-up. Okay, now that we cut our brackets, the motor is back in. As you can see, there used to be the bracket right here, and now we have clearance to bring this nice and tucked into the cross member. Back here, that whole bracket that messed with our exit the exhaust manifold is now gone, and then the other shock bracket on this side, same thing. So we're a little right there. Of course, we're still swinging a little, but this is pretty good. We're at 4 degrees pitch back, so not too far off of level. And then as far as height goes, I think we still got clearance for our bell housing. Our original time we put this in here without the oil pan at all. Our mark was here and here, and as you can see, we're maybe about an inch or so forward. If we really needed to, we could start trimming this cross member, but this looks like a good spot. Accessories will come out around this spot, and then we got plenty of room for a nice big radiator in here. So far I think we're looking where we want to be. Oh, as far as the motor mounts, see, it's pretty much exactly lined up with the platform for the stock motor mount. This one I have one position back on our adjustable plate, and you can see it's a little bit further. So, but if we just move it up one notch, it's going be right in line where we want it to be. So I think we're looking all right. Any words, Andrew?
No?
Fun times. Let's keep going. Okay, so I got my base plate that's gonna bolt into our stock cross member, cut out cardboard here. I'm gonna go ahead, try and do some markup from underneath with the holes I need to cut into here, and then I could translate this to the plasma, get it cut out, bolted on, and then we can make templates for the side that we could use to get our angles and how much material we're gonna cut off of our motor mount. All right, we got our little plate made up, and down here, you can see it nicely lines up with our two holes right there, and is on either side of the rubber of our motor mount, which our side tabs are gonna come off and catch our plate. So far we're looking pretty good. What I'll probably do now is take a drill, get these holes cleaned up. I made them slightly smaller so that way we can clean them out. So let's go do that, and then we could put our plate in. We could actually set our hardware. We could put a nut here. I could thread in a bolt through the backside, mimicking how I'm gonna go up from underneath on here. And then once that happens, then I could weld around the circumference of the nut. Get that set in, put it in the car, actually bolt it in exactly where it's gonna be. Once that's in, then we can make some templates to be able to cut these down. And then once those are cut, we can put them in, tack them in the car, and then finish it off welding on the table. So I got my plate sitting down there with my welded stud in. It's located itself in the hole. Now, if I take this bolt, metric bolt, put it in the factory thread position there, then we can get it. Now we're nice and tight on there, and I can go from the bottom with the nut, and that'll clamp it in there very securely. Then we can make our templates of these two out of cardboard, put them up against there, and trace exactly where we need to slice off on the bottom of those ears to make them fit exact to our plate. Okay, we got both of our motor mounts all welded up and put in and bolted in. We're doing pretty good. So if you look at the level here where the bubble is just touching the line, we got the same thing up here, bubble just touching the line. That means the motor this way is nice and even. Also took measurements from here to here. Same on the other side, those were even. So swinging left to right. It's even. We're looking nice. Also, right now, this is loose. This isn't holding any of the weight. So all the weight is here, pivoting on our motor mounts. Feels nice and sturdy. Obviously, when we get the transmission and our third mount up to triangulate everything, it'll be held really well in position. So far, it's looking really good. We got all of our clearance in the back of our oil pan and the underneath side of our oil pan as it goes on top of our cross member there. So far, it is a success. Now that this is in, I'm gonna take the engine hoist off, take the levels out, clean up a little bit, and then we can bring this up on the lift and bring up the transmission from behind. And once that's up, we can start modifying our stock transmission mount underneath to be able to catch our new 6L80E. We got our transmission up here on our stand. We got clearances and we're bolted in here and here on the other side, mated to our bell housing and the block. We're looking good. Where the drive shaft comes out, it is nice and even, left to right. We're centered and we got clearance up here too. So next, we have our factory location right here and here. And you can see where these bolts are in relation. So we'll have to adapt this cross member, but at least we could use it. It's already made, can bolt in the factory location and make an adapter that steps down. We just need a rubber transmission mount bolt onto here in order to do our design. So while we're waiting for our transmission mount to come in, I'm gonna go back to the front motor mounts and I'm gonna make some support gussets. Now that we're mounted in, I can see what I need to get to and where we have room to put an extra plate up top for some added strength. All right, while we're waiting for some more parts to show up, I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning up the engine bay. We got brackets here, 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 here that we're not gonna use anymore. And it would be nice to get them all out of here and cleaned up. A lot of these have little spot welds. So I'm gonna start drilling those out and start cleaning up.
All right, the engine compartment is already looking a lot better. We got all our holes patched up. We still got a bunch of body work to do, but for now we got our motor stuffed in here. It was a little tricky, but we got it done. We had to use some off-the-shelf stuff from Sikky. Next episode, we're gonna be pulling the motor back out. We're gonna be continuing some housekeeping in the engine compartment, taking out all the stuff we're not gonna be used, patching up our firewall, maybe even doing some Bondo and some painting in here. We're also gonna be doing a whole bunch of tricky stuff to our steering to get that done. And hopefully we'll be getting our Restomod AC unit installed. So that's gonna be on the next episode. So make sure you guys are watching and liking and commenting. We'll see you guys. Peace.